to stop me, but you're not going to do it.
You sure about that?
Just be careful that you don't become the monster.
Because I've tried to make this city a better place. I will tell the world who you really are.
But yeah, aside from that, what we've actually been doing, pretty much what we're spending our general time with, is watching Daredevil Season 3. So obviously it dropped on Netflix, whole season dropped, probably about a week ago. And I guess general thoughts is, I think this is better than Season 2. I think it's better than Season 1, but then again, I have to kind of maybe see what Season 1 was all about again. And I guess, like, where Season 3 kind of starts is that, I guess it kind of starts off from what is it? The disappointment, the disappointment that is the Defenders. How Matt Murdock kind of as kind of like what really happened in Defenders. Like I remember, like
okay,
I just remember watching the first episode and that Matt Murdock was like basically knocked out / dead because of something got to do with Elektra. That's about it.
Yeah. So we have to kind of go back a little bit. So Daredevil Season 1 is essentially about the main character, Matt Murdock, taking up the mantle of Daredevil, a vigilante within Hell's Kitchen, in order to bring justice towards, the Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, who basically has, like, Hell's Kitchen, like, under his, like, iron thumb, in controlling all crime in the area. Matt Murdock, being a lawyer, eventually takes him down using his physical skills as a martial artist, despite being blind, due to an accident that, while blinding him, heightened his other senses. And so he's still aware of how to get around and dodge punches and stuff like that. Season 2 kind of introduces. And like you said, Don, I actually agree. I think Season 3 is much better than Season 2, but I think the first half of Season 2 is really good, and part of the reason why
stuff, yeah,
exactly, and part of the reason why that's the case is because of the Punisher. Now, this also kind of leads on to the fact that the Punisher Season 1 is a very good series. I'm expecting. I think they're releasing Season 2 as of current scheduling.
Yeah, I got a feeling that's going to drop probably like March next year or something like that.
Yeah, and so the second half is kind of dealing with Elektra, who dies and is supposed to be the leader of the Hand, the group that Iron Fist hates and Daredevil also kind of doesn't like. And so she gets killed, but is resurrected by the Hand to basically lead them. And that kind of leads into the Defenders Season 1. Look, probably only season, let's face it.
Yeah, I think they said they're never doing that again, so they're like, okay.
The Defenders is what happens when you DC it, and you try and do things way too fast without a reasonable setup. And yeah, and also the other problems, like you have like Luke Cage and Iron Fist, who are kind of like the guys who are bringing down the Defenders in that season. Ironically, they're actually pretty good in Season 2, in my opinion. But anyways, Jessica Jones and Daredevil are kind of like the better parts of the Defenders, and essentially they are trying to uncover a plot by the Hand to try and enter Kunlun, from my understanding. And through the events of what happens, they end up destroying like several blocks in New York City, in which Daredevil actually kind of falls into like the area and the debris and is presumed to be dead, hence leading to Iron Fist taking on his mantle to try and protect New York for Season 2 Iron Fist. But yeah, with Daredevil Season 3, it kind of starts off with him kind of, it revealing that he actually did, survive the kind of earthquake and the collapses of several areas in New York City, and he gets taken care of in the church, which he actually grew up in after his father had passed away when he was a child. So it's kind of him kind of going back to his root.
The
And
hero thing where it's like going back to from where you came from, getting some answers that you didn't think were there, and kind of like rebuilding yourself. And I think that's generally the themes of this season. It really is the whole combating between the old self, the old you and the new you, or like what do you believe in, and I guess like who you are and what you want to be. Because I think a lot of the struggles internally, you see like internal monologues that Matt Murdock has between, I guess his rageful self, where like he's the full-on Daredevil, where he wants to kill and go out for justice, but at the same time there's kind of like the Matt Murdock like normal side, but at the same time he wants to get justice but not to kill. So it's kind of like the same, I guess, duality of something like a Batman thing, where it's like, the Joker could be completely evil, but like he cannot kill, if that makes sense. Like it's that kind of combination of things going together, and there's a lot of themes like that that Daredevil has. And like obviously a little bit of spoilers, and we're probably going to get a little bit more into it a lot later, but like there is parts of this season where he is literally physically fighting someone in his Daredevil costume, so they couldn't be more blunt than that.
yeah, and in terms of fighting his demons, right? But yeah, well, here's the thing, right? And I think this is probably like, and I agree with you. Like, I haven't seen Daredevil season 1 since it came out, like what, like 2014, 2015, whatever it
I
may
swear to
be.
God, it was like 2014, because that was like the second phase of like Marvel Phase 2 with like Guardians and everything, and I feel like that's when they generally hit their stride.
Yeah, and with that, like I remember they went through the same kind of thing with Daredevil season 1, where it was supposed to be him kind of trying to figure out, like, do I kill Wilson Fisk? Don't I? Do I? Don't I? And a lot of this season was, I'm gonna kill him. Like, I'm just gonna, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm gonna kill him. And then him kind of changing his mind towards the end of season 3. Again, not gonna really spoil exactly what happens. You'll see when you watch it. By the way, highly recommend this season. It's probably like the top 3 seasons for me when it comes to the Marvel Netflix series. Again, I'd probably have to rewatch them in a particular order, but I think it would probably be like Daredevil season 1, Punisher season 1, Punisher season 1 or Daredevil season 3. It's like they're the toss up. Like, I don't know which one comes first, and then Jessica Jones season 4. Sorry,
Season 4,
season
we skipped like in the future here.
number 4, Jessica Jones season 1. Who knows if it'll get a season 4?
Well, they
Especially
actually
after,
caged and everything, so who knows?
well,
Not only
yeah,
that,
well,
but like who knows? Like the next phase of the MCU stuff, I'm pretty sure they're going to be like, remember those Netflix things? We might have to like cull a few of them.
or just move them like over towards their own streaming service. I wouldn't be surprised if they did end up doing something like that. But yeah, like with with season 3, they kind of go back to doing that, but they kind of like backtrack really quickly. But the thing is, like, I think overall, like, the story's quite good in this. You have the return of Foggy Nelson and Karen, Daredevil's friends who think he's dead, but then they realize, hey, he's not dead, but he's still
Hey.
but he's still an asshole. Again, there seems to be
But like that's the thing. I think like this season handled it a lot better and a lot more quicker in the sense in comparison to season 2. Like season 2, it was like kind of going through the motions where Foggy's like, I can't believe you betrayed my trust. I'm never talking to you again. I'm like, oh no, just
yeah,
shut
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
In this
I do
season,
remember.
they kind of shoved that at the carpet. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go.
Well, you see, they did the correct thing in my opinion with this season with Foggy's character. I really hated that in season 2, right, when he was being all melodramatic about it. It was very much like, oh, okay, like, you're being a dick, but you're my friend, so I'm gonna continue supporting you, kind of thing. It like basically his presumed death had like a really big effect on him. And the thing is, I don't think it should be the same for him dealing with Wilson Fisk at this stage. It should be very much the question of, oh, look what happens when I do let the law come in. It doesn't actually lead to any kind of justice. I did really like the whole like, philosophical questions about, maybe some people are too rich for the law to touch them kind of thing. You see it all the time kind of in modern society where, people kind of avoid jail or whatever. It's definitely far more interesting because in this, you start off with Wilson Fisk's character played by Vincent D'Onofrio, which I always forget because like I remember I loved watching him in Law and Order, and it always like kind of blows my mind that like they're the same people, well played by the same person rather, acting. But also like Vincent D'Onofrio, far more like skinnier dude back in the day. Like now, like I don't know how much of Fisk's body is like his body or whatnot, but like yeah, it's a great casting choice by the Marvel Netflix team. But yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio, he basically convinces the FBI that he's going to be ratting out on criminal organizations in exchange for the protection of his life due to an attack in prison. But all of that and a bunch of other stuff, like you eventually see like it's all kind of orchestrated by Kingpin, and it's one of those things that I kind of really love because they kind of did it in season 1 as well to kind of really capture the kind of person that Wilson Fisk is. Like he's this guy who just kind of manipulates you from the shadows.
Well, that's the thing.
And
You see that throughout the season with a few of the other characters, with I guess Poindexter or like Benjamin Dex,
Ben
and
Poindexter, yeah.
in his character and how like his whole character arc of like basically they're like, hey, we're both the same, we've had flawed I guess childhoods and we're kind of screwed up in the head, so like I'll take you under my wing, and I guess you kind of see a lot of that type of reflection with the different characters, especially with like even like there's one episode that we didn't really care about with what's her name,
Karen,
and like everyone's like seems to have a flawed thing like going for them, and yeah.
Oh right, yeah. You know what? That episode actually really made me dislike Karen like a lot
Because like I liked it when I didn't know much about it. I'm like, yeah, you seem alright.
No, but it's like, okay, so here's the thing. Like a lot of the times when you like develop a character, and give them a past, you're kind of supposed to develop who they are and how that became the character that you currently see, like when you are initially introduced to them. Like Karen kind of comes off as somebody in season 1 who's like a very like naive character, who kind of falls into the trap of the life of like dealing with like criminal elements. But given her past seems to suggest that she's very much aware of being involved in criminality and being involved in death. Like she even talks to like Matt Murdock and tells her about like what happens to her, and what she did back in season 1, which I'm actually really glad that they brought that up finally, because I was like kind of really confused about like why that kind of particular plot point never really came back. I almost forgot who it was that they killed because that's how long it's been. Again, it's 2015, 2014 when the first season came out. But yeah, it's like when I say I feel like I don't like her, like I meant more that like it kind of ruins like all this kind of development that they tried to make it seem like her character was, and it's like very much like, haha, you see, she actually had a really tough childhood, and she wasn't always a good person, and it's like, okay, so is that supposed to make me care about her more? No, like I don't know, like I wouldn't be respecting Foggy either if he was like a like a manic drug dealer who made poor decisions that led to his like siblings' death or something like that. Again, it just felt like very much, and also that particular episode was really boring.
Yeah.
and really didn't like push the plot forward.
It was
An
kind of
episode,
it was just kind of a stall on the season.
yeah. Whereas an episode that, and to be fair, it's the same thing with like Foggy as well. Like there was this whole thing about like introducing Foggy to his family, and that's really cool. But there were all this stuff about you gotta come back to the business and stuff. But that stuff was like I get they're all trying to connect it towards like Fisk trying to blackmail them. But the stuff that was more interesting was Foggy trying to run for district attorney. That was more interesting because again, it was stuff about them being lawyers, which I kind of felt like this season kind of forgot about until the very end. That oh hey, there's people who can do things here.
It's like we have a
in these-
firm. I have a degree and stuff. Let's go.
Yeah, I kind of felt like you see, and I think this is the issue with season two. Season two kind of felt like they were like, we really need to kickstart this Defenders thing, so let's introduce this plot point really early. And I think that's the reason why season two kind of suffered in the end. And subsequently they needed to kind of reintroduce elements into season three that will bring things back to the old status quo, which is them trying to do more lawyery things, and Matt not being like a big emo like social outcast most of the season. But I look again, I really like Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock Daredevil. He does a really good job every time I see him. Like
He's probably the best
like,
actor out of all the I think like the I could say the whole MCU to be honest with you, but like TV wise, he's definitely the standout.
yeah.
Like
And
he definitely can act. Not only that, but like he has the physicality to it. Like he actually is doing the martial arts of sorts, and he has it. He has that presence in comparison.
Yeah, and also the fact that he is playing someone who's blind, and
Yeah,
has
I totally
to
forgot about that.
put on. Yeah, but like that's the thing. Like he's playing someone who's blind, but like there are moments where he just like switches between being blind and not being blind. Like there are these like, kind of again, it's like this meta level of acting where it is an actor playing someone who's blind who has to now act as somebody who's not blind. So it's like again, it's like these tiers of acting which you have to try and present and make it seem legitimate to the on-screen audience that you're believing this is actually happening. And I think he does an excellent job at playing that. And of course, it's playing roles that you typically don't see, like kind of people with disabilities as like main characters. So it's always really great to see them being involved and seeing them in shows and being the main headline. But yeah, so he's the kind of main standout in Daredevil. And I mentioned Vincent D'Onofrio earlier. Again, you see his struggle. And again, it's him trying to constantly claw his way out of prison, trying to claw out of being, looked down upon, and just trying to grab his power back. And Vincent D'Onofrio does a really good job at trying to, get him to that level that it's believable that, yes, this is a character that you could probably believe exists in this world or in our world. There's another character that you mentioned earlier, Ben Poindexter, who's who they don't actually really officially name
Until
his
right
character.
at the end. I guess
Do they
nickname.
actually name?
Well,
Wait,
nickname. The nickname at the end.
Oh, wait, what did they say as a nickname? I must
It was
totally
like the
missed
final. It
that.
was like the final second. It's like call me, Bullseye, and it goes boom, boom, boom.
Oh, okay. Maybe I must have missed that because I remember seeing the surgery, but maybe there's more.
No, it was at the
after.
surgery, and then he opened his eye, and it like call me Bull. Like I don't think he actually said Bullseye. I think it's like it's emphasized.
Oh, it's in
like,
his eye.
It's his eye.
Right?
There's like a what is it like implant? So I'm like it's
Yeah,
Bullseye,
yeah,
yeah, like Bullseye.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
The correlations are right there, guys. So that's
Oh,
what-
okay.
I guess they
No,
never said it, but like to me, I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
that's
okay.
Bullseye.
Yeah. No, well, they actually do make an earlier reference to this character because they again one thing I actually really liked about Bullseye's character in this kind of series, played by Wilson Bethel, and they kind of go into this like the psychology of this character. Like he is basically someone who's like a sociopath, psychopath, and I think psychopath, and basically he's basically kept in line because of these lessons that he's learned from his psychologist. And basically he's kind of manipulated by Wilson Fisk throughout the season, but it's done in a very excellent way. And yeah, like he's basically an FBI agent. And they show him back when he was a kid. That one of the hats that he wears for his team logo is like a bullseye, like it shows like a um like
Like
an
a target
arrow,
thing.
target. Yeah, exactly. So that's the first reference to him being a bull, with his name being Bullseye. But seeing him, I think I forget which episode was it. Episode 4, where no, episode 4's
Episode 4 is an iconic episode.
Oh, we'll get to that in a
Yeah.
moment, but we'll get to the fight between Bullseye and Daredevil. So
I think
there's a
that's
really
like
great
episode
scene.
6 or so.
Yeah, so there's a really great kind of scene where there's an attack, and Bullseye and Daredevil kind of meet face to face for the first time. And it kind of goes in Daredevil's like favor initially, because obviously like I think Daredevil does have the advantage like up close and in combat. But like the moment that like he gets some distance away from him, it's like when you start seeing just how deadly Bullseye is. Like he's just throwing like pens and like sharp objects at him.
Well, some
and he
of it
just
wasn't even sharp objects. They were just blunt objects that would hit you with such a force that would just make you just concuss, bleed. I'm just like, Jesus, man.
yeah, like every time like there was like a scene where Bullseye is doing something based on like the skills that he's like kind of learnt and acquired throughout the years, like it's very much like, wow, like yeah, I do not want to like get involved with this dude again. Like I think the equivalent in the DC universe is Deadshot, so these two have like a very similar set of skills. But yeah, like every time you see it on screen, like it's very much like, oh, holy shit, like, oh, like now Daredevil is like on the run because he is fighting this dude at a distance. And that guy definitely has the advantage at that stage.
Yeah, not only that, but it's like even just general with the action scenes with him and like all the rest of the action scenes. I felt like it was really done. It was shot in a way of like it felt like a comic book where it's kind of very kind of sporadic, and it kind of like has these good cuts that kind of like you can see like that was probably a panel in like a comic book. Like what comes to mind is like one of the like in the last episode, there's obviously a fight scene in that. And it's like and obviously Bullseye trying to like cuts a chandelier, but it's not one of those things where like it's there. It's like he sees it, like there's a shot of him seeing it, there's a chandelier, then the next shot is him throwing it, and then obviously the chandelier falls down. Like it felt like it was written like a comic book or like storyboarded like one.
Yeah.
And like the flow worked really well of like characters moving in and out. Especially the action scenes. Like you could say like I like my like Luke Cage and things like that, but like once again, Daredevil is on that other level, I would say, where it's completely different, and I feel like especially the action scenes, I feel like they have to have like a second like director or consulting advisor for like the action scenes and who they've got, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone who's I guess pretty much well known in like I guess the Hong Kong action scene, because like a lot of this is like a martial art thing and it works really well, and you can really see the effort into it, and the effort that they put in just the fight scenes in comparison to like Jessica Jones, for example.
Yeah, well, I think part of the reasons why, like, kind of Jessica Jones and like something like Luke Cage, like it's not very fancy to see on like the big screen, because they're kind of dealing with things that are pretty low budget. Whereas if you compare it to something like Daredevil and to an extent Spider-Man, like the reason why those guys have pretty large villain roster is because their powers aren't super insane. And it's the same reason why Batman is quite popular as well, in my opinion, because these characters kind of have like one particular quirk that kind of put them ahead of like the average person, but they have to use that to fight like people who are significantly stronger than them, whether they be giant crocodile men or like demon vampires,
Or actually Superman.
or actually Superman. So when you see, and I actually agree. I actually really like the. I kind of wish it went on like a little longer, or there was like some kind of little bit of a team up between some of the characters for a little while. But there's a fight between Kingpin, Bullseye, and Daredevil in the last scene, and it almost kind of felt like a rock paper scissor fight.
Like one person
very
comes in, this other person comes out, kind of thing. It's like,
well,
oh yeah,
there was that, but it was also just kind of felt like, okay, when it was like Daredevil versus Bullseye, Bullseye had the advantage, and so he would like be able to like overpower like Daredevil, because he'd be chucking glass and shit at him or throwing a knife at him, and wouldn't allow Daredevil to get him like close combat. But when it was like Kingpin versus Bullseye, Kingpin would obviously use his like, ridiculous strengths to like pick him up and like throw him or punch him a shit ton. But then when it was like Kingpin versus Daredevil, Daredevil was like nimble enough and was able to use his like abilities to like get out of the way of Fist. So he was able to like get ahead of him on that. So it was very interesting to see like them all kind of coming together and how that interaction kind of led to this like really big, like as you mentioned, like a comic book fight. It's very visually interesting, a lot of eye candy. Yeah, and it's all very fun. But speaking of eye candy, there is another really cool scene, and it's this season's hallway fight in episode 4. At the jail. I'm sure you would have loved it, given that it was a one take.
yeah. Once again, if you listen to this podcast for a while, I'm a sucker for two things: really good cinematography, and kind of like I guess you would say like, like it's like kind of one takes, but also just kind of like it's done in a very artful, tasteful way. And this kind of takes the cake. And this is like because there's the hallway scene that people like. I think that was kind of a myriad of if you ever watch Old Boy, the Korean film, that was also done in one take, and that was in a hallway. That was done by like with a hammer. That was like, and that's pretty much I think what kind of started the inspiration for everything like this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and this one it kind of takes the cake because it's not just done in a static kind of scene. It moves along, and moves to different rooms and different locations. And the logistics behind this must have been insane. Like this would have taken like a whole day of shooting or even more to kind of figure this out. The amount of takes they would have done, because the fight in and of itself, like even just forget about the gimmick of it done in one take. The fight scene itself is really good because it starts in a hallway, then it moves into a room where it's kind of like this Jackie Chan-esque fight scene where there's like props around with like a surgery chair and things to kind of move around, and then Daredevil uses that in such a way where he's moving around and like slamming people against the walls and the chairs. They're moving into these areas, having a dialogue scene as well in the middle of it to make sure that no one like stuffs up their lines. That would have been really like insane if no one did that. And then like moving through in and out, all the background actors have to hit all their marks completely, and doing like more and more action scenes as well until the big finale. It was just it was a sight to see, because like you can't fake that stuff. Like you can definitely you feel more intimate with the character at that moment, but at the same time, like once again, I gotta commend Charlie Cox for his performance and as well as his physicality. Is like he can just move in and out of an action scene, and like you look at him and he's like, man, like you're acting as well as you're doing action scenes and you're not taking any breaks at all. It is something to behold, and I think definitely this is like the iconic moment, and like I think this is the part where everyone's like, oh crap, this is like picking up its game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, again, season 3 of Daredevil does an excellent job at kind of bringing back the putting the Marvel Netflix series back in Marvel Netflix series. It's an excellent ride. The characters are great. It looks great. Story's great. And yeah, like we mentioned it before that Iron Fist and Luke Cage aren't getting a season 3, which kind of disappoints me. But I mean, this is what happens when you start shows off with a weak season. I'm going to be looking forward to my Punisher season 3 and a potential Daredevil season 4. Who knows? We'll see.
I guarantee you they're gonna do a season 4. Like if they don't, like, because that's the thing. I think what Disney wants to do is like they'll probably keep it going, but like if they want to, they could probably move thing, or they could just gonna keep it there and then make new characters. I don't think they'll just get rid of it completely. But you never know. You never know. Money talks, right? Yeah. So aside from that, that will be us for this week. Remember, you can always listen to us on Stitcher, Libsyn, on our own little website, iTunes, Spotify, as well as the YouTube channel Marketing Movies, where we split up by topic. So until next time, Superman is maybe our Superman, like Henry Cavill's still our Superman, but who knows? But until next time, see ya.
Catch ya.